Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my second video of the day, and this is going to be my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Nickelodeon show, episode 24, season 1, which is called Operation Breakout. New episode of Turtles at last, and that's what I'm going to start off this video with. I mentioned at the start of last week's episode how long it took for the break between episode 22 and 23. Same situation here, but almost even worse in that no one had any idea for a while when this episode was coming. But thanks to like Comic-Con and stuff like that, we knew it was coming. But I still think it was really, really bad decisions on behalf of Nick to have the break happen this late in the season, because I've already felt that the last few episodes have maybe robbed the show of a bit of its momentum going into a finale, kind of getting away from the big plot threads and kind of having more one-off kind of episodes. But when you also, like, outside of the universe, outside of the story, do that with basically a month break between episodes, two episodes in a row, that really steals a lot of momentum from the show. And luckily this was a good episode, and it did make up for that and got me excited for the finale, so that's good. But still, it really, the breaks made me like just almost not think about Turtles for a while, and I don't think that's a bad thing for a show to do. But anyway, I'll just leave it there with that. At least we know when the finale is. I'll talk about that at the end. So hopefully no problems with the airing of the rest of the season. But anyway, Operation Breakout. My overall thoughts. Good episode. It got, while how to say this, the ending was good. The ending set up the finale very well, but the episode by itself was still, again, kind of a once-off thing. I think it's a bit more important because there's definitely hints that a lot of the stuff that happened in this episode are going to be linked into the finale, like what April finds, the Neutralizer, and then obviously the finale, as I mentioned, the end of the episode. I mean, so I think overall it will be important once we have the finale and we get that. But this episode as a whole, the plot kind of did feel like, again, like the last few episodes, like not focused on the main plot, like no Karai and stuff like that. But it worked because of those moments that I said, that there's a bit more meat to this episode than, say, the last episode or the one before that. I think it's a bit. I can hardly remember what episode 22 was. I remember the last one was Parasitica. That the one before that, it's been so long, I just don't remember. But anyway, let's get into some specifics. So the first thing is obviously the start of the episode, which sets everything up, and that it's the Donnie April kind of romance, i.e. Donnie has a crush on April, and they really play up that again. And I like that they kind of made this the theme of the episode, that Donnie was trying to impress April, and that they've done it minorly before, but never devoted a full episode to this, where like the main plot was kind of put in motion by that. So this is interesting here. It starts off a sparring match between Donatello and Raph. He wants to impress April, who's watching. He beats Raph, and kind of showing off in front of April, but then Raph kind of, after he's down on the ground, kind of beats down on Donatello after, basically like souring a good victory for him. And then so you get the really good moment, I think, between the two brothers, where Donatello's just like, why did you do that? I beat you and then you just did this after. Did you not see what I was trying to do? And then you get the whole thing later that, Ross kind of like, what? You think you have a chance with her? You don't. And it was kind of just this thing where, like, really, you said that? And then I like the way it's actually said in the episode later on by Leo to Raph, that like, you said that to him, and you don't do that. And that's where the whole "the heart is a soft muscle" thing came in from Mikey, which was a really good line, I thought. That kind of made this episode more than just a throwaway plot, and that they played it up that he really likes April. So that was good. But from there, it goes beyond just like physically proving themselves. April gets the mystery email, and then Donnie is the one to kind of figure it out because he wants to help April. And then he decides to go out alone instead of waking up his brothers because of what Raph said, basically. He needs to do this alone to prove that he has a chance with it. And it worked because they explained it to you why that made sense. So that's what I liked about it. Um, and from there, he goes alone into the Krang facility. Um, this is where it kind of like there's not a whole lot of like stuff to really talk about. He goes in, there's some fights, opens a few doors. He releases the Neutralizer, which is a pretty important plot point. He was held captive by the Krang, so he's an enemy of the Krang, but he's also an enemy of Donnie because he's very hostile. He's kind of like a mutant, so he's released, and that kind of causes some conflict all over the place. And in a way, it kind of gives them the chance to escape from the Krang. He then finds Kirby in the cell, and there's an I like the bonding between Kirby and Donatello in that they're both excellent at science, and that they they kind of had the whole thing of like, oh, I knew exactly what to do with your message, and they said it at the same time. And then when they see the Neutralizer, they're like, wait, this is a mutant, but he's based on this specific animal, and they go into the whole like Latin names of the animal. And like, what species do you think it is? He's like, Newt, yes, yeah. And so that was some fun interaction just to show that like, especially with the whole Donnie relationship, that it was like the father approves kind of sort of thing. But yeah, the others then wake up, see that Donnie's gone. They play the recording and see that Donatello's figured it out, and they go after him. And what I like here is that this is where the moment where you kind of had, why did he go out alone? And Raph's kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of responsible for this. And that's where you had Leo say, why did you say that to him? He has a crush, you don't say that to someone like that. And then the other brothers were really the kind of like B, C plot of the episode, and that what I think their plot in the episode was meant to show, other than the fact that they needed the four turtles there to fight and then come home to set up the final moment with Raph and Donnie, like the whole plot device. But what it showed in the episode was that how intelligent Donatello was, and that if any one of the other turtles went out alone, they probably wouldn't have made it as far as Donatello did. But because he's so intelligent, he did make it that far, and that Leo kept saying every time, what would Donnie do? And that's kind of what got them to the point to kind of catch up with Donnie. So that was a good way to show, without just focusing on Donatello, that Donatello's excellent. So that was good. We're going to next. April stays behind. She doesn't go out with the team to go get her father. Interesting decision, but I get she's kind of still inexperienced. They had the whole she was beaten up by Karai thing. And Splinter is teaching her how to be quiet, kind of meditate and listen to the silence. And she's not getting it at all because she's focusing on her father. But then when he really kind of gets through to her, like, that's not the sort of thing to be thinking about right now. Focus. And when she listens, she starts to hear something that even Splinter, who's like this master ninja, doesn't even hear. And we get her going off on her own. And this is really mysterious. It's because, as I've said before, and I'll definitely maintain on the basis of this episode, that April is arguably the most interesting part of this show in how important they've made her and how interesting of a character they've made her in this series compared to other iterations of Turtles. And the fact that she's the only one to hear this, like, oh, is this her special power, and that she can, to some extent, like, understand the Krang communications or something like that. There's a lot of stuff, we haven't quite got it revealed yet, but she is led through the sewers, and as she's walking through, she, like, obviously is separated from Splinter. He doesn't even hear her going off on her own. Interesting by itself. That shows that, oh, she's going to be a good Kunoichi when she's trained up. She can even, like, evade Splinter. She sees Krang patrolling the sewers, which is an interesting point as well. That's kind of one of the first times I think we've seen them there. They're searching for this thing. The minor negative about the episode is that this thing is just there. Why is it there? Did they put it there on purpose? I assume it'll be explained in the finale, but it just kind of left me going, why is this there? Why are the Krang looking for it down here? How do they know how to get there? Stuff like that. But anyway, she's led to it. She sneaks around, grabs it, and obviously brings it back to the base. And this is where the kind of bit of the end happens. But before that, the Neutralizer. Now, interesting design. I like it. The fact that it appears as if he's not just a mutant that was made by them. Kirby hints that he's an experiment, but the fact that he had his own armor and weapons that they took from him and that he specifically went to get back and didn't just pick up other ones hints to me that he was either mutated a while ago and has experience, or actually comes from another dimension and that they haven't captured. I'm not quite sure because they don't have him speak, but it's interesting, especially with the reveal at the end of the episode, like that the Neutralizer nearly ruined the whole plan here on Shredder and the Krang's behalf. So, what is he? He's clearly not the Turtles' friend. He's clearly is kind of not just their enemy because he's an enemy of the Krang. So, what's the whole plan? Is the communication thing like his? Is he responsible for that? Is there some connection between him and April? That's the sort of thing. I like the fact that it's just mystery. They don't really explain who he is, and I like that setup because too often they've. Well, that said, they've done it a few times with some things and haven't really explained it. But I think this guy's important enough to the story that they will explain it. I like the armor, the way he has guns and stuff like that. He seems to be a kind of expert with the guns. He eats a Krang. I think I saw that correctly. He just straight up eats one of them, which was interesting. Interesting that they show that because they specifically, whenever the turtles fight them, always show them like if they get crushed or like they've got like Leonardo and Raphael have bladed weapons. But they specifically show them that they never like hit the Krang with the blades and stuff like that. If they're ever crushed, they specifically don't show the brains getting crushed, but they're allowed to be eaten. Interesting. But anyway, come towards the end of the episode. April Kirby reunited. They didn't quite have the emotion I thought it would, but it worked. And then what I really liked about this episode was that Raph realised that he did Mikey kind of wrong at the start of the episode, and completely gives him all the credit for the mission and just bigs him up the best he can. April, because of this, April gives Danny a hug and he faints and he's like, "Yep, that worked." And it was just a humorous way to end the episode and kind of, I suppose, show that Raph kind of gets it as well, stuff like that. That was good. Final part of the episode was Shredder and Krang. Only time we see them in the episode, and the only time we've seen them in like 2 or 3 episodes, I think. So this is clearly setting up the finale almost, and it kind of explains to this episode. The plan all along was to let the turtles get Kirby. That the message sent was not a leak that Kirby managed to get out, but a specifically targeted email that they wanted the turtles to go and get him, and they were going to let him bring him back to the base. So that's the plan, and I assume Kirby has some sort of tracking beacon on him that will lead everyone to the base where exactly it is. But also the interesting thing is that Kirby himself gives an evil look at the end of the episode. So is he a kind of Krang droid in disguise? We've seen that before, kind of perfected now with better speech and personality. Or have they done something to Kirby as well? Because the whole thing, the whole mystery, I suppose, is that he is, I can't quite remember it now, he's not the type of scientist that would help them develop their mutagen formula, but rather something else. So like, is his specialized knowledge helping them in some other way and stuff like that? But either way, it's interesting. Great setup for the finale in that it's a cliffhanger, not part of the finale, that's going to, I suppose, have a big reveal and just get the finale straight into action. And final thing to say is just they specifically mentioned that the Neutralizer nearly ruined the plan. So him getting out nearly prevented, I suppose the whole thing here is that maybe he would have killed Kirby or the turtles, and he would never have got out, Shredder would never have got his revenge. But there's definitely a mystery around the Neutralizer that I'm interested to see what they do. I believe he does have a voice actor. I've been hearing people talk about that he's got a voice actor that people are excited to hear. So I'm definitely expecting some big things from this guy in the finale. But overall, good episode. Maybe didn't do enough to really explain what exactly was happening. A lot of stuff just, I felt, came a little bit too randomly out of nowhere. But in the end, it's reasonably good setup for the finale. Much better episode than last time out, and had some much needed, I think, April Donatello kind of stuff. But I will say again, is that just a joke, or are they actually going to go somewhere with the Donatello crush on April? Because they've spent a decent amount of time this season referencing the fact that Donatello has a huge crush on April. But with her, she knows about it, but is just smiling every time he looks. Does she not know? They're just... It's kind of a bit frustrating in the way they're actually doing it, because they're not letting anyone really develop because of it. Like, the whole plot of this episode came from that, but the actual relationship, the crush, didn't develop anywhere from that. It's just at the same place it was the second Donatello saw her in like the first episode. So I'm wondering what they're doing with it, and especially like with Casey Jones coming into the things in season 2, most likely that's going to be a romance. Like, I almost feel like they're devoting too much time that could be spent developing Donatello's character on giving him this romance kind of crush thing that's not actually going to go anywhere. So they're kind of wasting Donatello's time almost. But as I said, overall it is a good episode. I have a few complaints because I felt the series could, over the past few episodes, have set up a lot more stuff and just made going into this finale crazy epic, as opposed to what makes it epic here is one scene at the end. They could have had a kind of couple of episodes, gradual build up, and then boom, finale. But I still am excited. So the finale is going to take place, which we're not going to have to wait a month, August 8th, so 13 days basically from today, I think, or 12. Either way, they're not too long, hopefully. But yeah, it's a two-part finale, so episode 25 and 26 in one go. That's good. So yeah, I'll have like a double review next time out of the finale, and after that I'll also have a review of kind of Turtles Season 1 as a whole as well. So at least 2 more videos to come from me about Season 1. But thanks for watching this review, and bye.